I've been dehydrated all day.
Yeah. I mean, I like to drink a little tea.
Yeah, I'm
Over
drinking.
it.
Stephanie's been making iced tea, some iced black tea, and just adding lemon. Well, it's so good.
Yeah.
Especially it's been hella hot. I rode my bike today and then like went and played, well, coached soccer, and it was a fucking hot ass day.
Oh, how's that soccer coaching been?
It's cool. Like I've never coached before, and it's like a different relationship that I have with the kids because I've been a teacher and I've done after school programming, and those two things, like the relationship you have is different. So like in the classroom, it's kind of more authoritarian, right? Like you're just
Mm,
like there's this adult that sits in front of the class and then tells the kids information, and they're just supposed to listen and stuff. But in
yeah.
after school, there's more of a, like it gets closer to an equal. There's still like a hierarchy, but in after school, there's more of a relationship building than just you have to listen to me. There's more interaction,
Yeah. You know, the
and
kids
then
like kind of like know that hey, this is not real school. This is after school. I got
yeah,
some more
yeah,
freedom.
yeah, 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 yeah. And like the adults know it too, right? Like that's how it's treated. Which is, I like it. I like it a lot more, and I don't like that whole rigid structure thing.
Yeah.
But the coaching is like the most free, right? Like there's not like these extra expectations. Like you're supposed to listen to me, tell you, like you're supposed to listen to me about everything. Everything I say is like the law. Uh,
Yeah, because
like
most
with
most coaches, like parent coaches, don't even know how to coach, or may not even know the sport, so they don't really
yeah,
have a lot of leg room.
yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true. I think there's also there's like an element of well, like everyone wants to be there, right? Like in sports, everyone's choosing to be there. And after schools, some of those kids might be there because their parents work or whatever. Sure, some of them want to be there, but like some of it's not a choice for them. But at as a coach, like everyone wants to be there and they genuinely want to learn from you, right? Like they know that you have information that
yeah,
can help them be better. And also it's like you get to really learn individuals because it's a more personal setting rather than like after schools. There's all this still like it's still related to school, right?
yeah,
Like there's still like things they still got to do homework and shit like that, right? It's still
yeah.
educational. But yeah, the coaching's been cool on that front. Like I like that there's no one, I don't like owe anyone any lesson plans or
Yeah.
fucking programmatic shit. I just show up and teach them how to play some soccer and then coach them how to be a team. Been watching a lot of Ted Lasso, so been getting my Ted Lasso on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Did you have to prepare to kind of learn the rules of like soccer? And I mean, I don't know if you played soccer as a kid or.
I didn't play as a kid, but I've been playing for the last like 10 years or so. I've been playing
No.
with like in pickup leagues
Oh wow.
and shit like that. So like I mean I grew up kicking a ball around, so I had some
Yeah.
skills, but I just started playing like I said a decade ago, and I've been learning the rules. I've also been watching soccer a lot lately. So
Okay.
like the rules are easy. I know the rules. The thing that's hard is like, and it's not difficult, but the thing that would be difficult would be the teaching them skills, right? Like skill
Yeah.
moves,
Yeah.
and the teaching them how to be a team is easy for me. That's the shit that I've been doing the whole time I've been working with kids. But yeah, teaching them tactics and skills, I think that's been the most challenging, but also the most fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think just team sports are just like for the most part are just. I think they're beneficial to kids to learn how to um work together
Yeah.
collaboratively.
Yeah.
I think it's just you can there's some life skills development from being on a sports team, I think.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's I don't remember what sociologist it is, but there's a theory in sociology, social psychology, that how games relate to socializing, how we learn from games, how we can actually pick up so many life skills, like you're pointing out. But one of the things that we learn is how it's pretty much empathy, right? Like how we learn how to play different positions and we learn how to put ourselves in our teammates' shoes. So that's
Hmm.
teaching us how to like be a part of a team. And it's wild. You said it's like good for kids. It's good for adults. There's so many
Yeah,
adults that like don't know how to do this shit, right? Like that don't know how to collaborate, that don't know how to work with
yeah,
other people, or don't know how to really find that connection between someone,
yeah,
regardless of what your background is or what you think about things, and then building from that connection. And
yeah,
that's something I think more than just kids need. Right now, a lot of adults need.
yeah. And also, like in sports, especially in because my kids did sports and they do sports now. My youngest, but as within youth sports, they tend to be like not so centered on like the best player. So there is no hierarchy at least within the players. Of course, the coach, there is some type of respect for the coach, but within the players, even the best player, I'm talking about like the younger divisions. Not I'm not talking about when it gets to like maybe high school. Then you start seeing hierarchy amongst who's the best and who's the leader of the team. But for the most part, starting into team sports, I think there is some lessons where it teaches young people just to, be a good teammate. And like you said, having an understanding of personalities and and just like supporting each other and working together. But once it start getting competitive, listen, the game, we want the players, and well, as you get more as it gets to high school, it's that whole lovey dovey empathy is not going to be there anymore.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. There's that's what I'm coaching is high school.
yeah, okay.
The you say that. So what's what do you think makes a good team player?
Um, I think like a good team player is like a recognizing. I would say you recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, and also recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of others, and the kind of like accepting what you bring to the table. What's accepting what you bring in the table and accepting what others bring in to the table as well. And I guess like removing ego could be essential for a cohesive team. Like if you look
Hmm.
at like teams like say, I mean, you could I don't want to say the Chicago Bulls because everybody, but I'm a big basketball guy for the most part. But if you look at the teams like the Warriors, Golden State Warriors, where obviously Steph Curry is the best player, and but you do have there is the players around him respect his role, and he's respected by the players, and a guy like Curry like values everybody who contributes. It's not is he's not overly like egotistic in his relationship. At least what it seems to like us.
Yeah. Would you say he's the I think the leader is Curry the leader of the team?
Yeah, I would say that because he's the best
Okay.
player.
So
Yes.
the traits that you just named are those just generally good? What because I asked what makes a good team player, but I think you described not. I mean, I think you also described what makes a good leader, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So,
Yeah.
are is that different?
A good player and a good leader. I guess it could be different. A good leader, I think. I mean, obviously, players could be leaders, but a good player, I would say, is it will be a little bit different. I would say someone who's who's about mastering his skill sets in order to be the best version of himself when it comes to playing whatever sport
What
that person plays.
So I don't want. So I'm thinking of this like beyond just sports, right? So if we can take these characteristics and put them uh, in the workplace, because
Yeah.
we all work on teams for the most part. Most people work on teams, and most of those teams have leaders. So what when we're at work, thinking about those traits that you can superimpose from sports into uh, the workforce, what would be a good team player in the workforce, and what would a good team leader look like to you in the workforce?
Yeah, as far as leadership in the workforce, I think as a leadership in the workforce, excuse me. So leadership in the workforce, I would think it involves uh creating a path for everyone to be like feel involved and feel valued in the team or in
Mm-hmm.
the workplace. And a lot of times people may not feel valued, and that kind of may create tension, and it creates uh, morale issues,
Mm-hmm.
which could which ultimately produce productivity. I would say,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
What is there? So I like that like like creates pathways for all of the folks to feel valued. Is
hmm
that like so? I had to do this question for this job that I was interviewing for, or that I'm interviewing for, and one of the questions is they asked me to do a presentation. Oh, no, 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 they asked me they asked me for some evidence of what kind of leader I am. So what kind of manager to people I am, and what kind
hmm
of project manager I am. And I thought it was like a good question to really think about. I've never been asked what kind of a
oh
leader I am.
yeah,
It's a good question to ask. And then I like asked some folks that have worked for me what kind of leader I am. And I think I generally know. But I do know that when they were telling me, they're like, when they told me what kind of leader I am, they also told me that I was one of the best managers they've ever worked
wow,
for.
wow, that's amazing.
And I think that has to do with the kind of leadership that I do, which is a more collaborative one, that you like,
That's
the type you talked about, Steph Curry, right? Where you
yeah,
recognize everyone's path and like give them the space
yeah,
to like become that, right?
yeah,
Uh, and like creating pathways not only to figure out what that is, but to actually um, be a part of the decision making while being a
mm,
leader, right? Like I I I have found in my history of working a lot of jobs, as we talked about last
yeah,
episode, because I leave jobs, I've had a lot of leaders, and definitely the ones who invest their efforts into the actual people that work with them, or work under them, or work for them, however you want to describe, uh, are the ones that have been the most influential on me. And also, it's the places that I felt help me figure out exactly how to be that.
yeah.
I
I
know.
de- I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I definitely resonate with that because I've actually asked myself that type of questions. Um, as far as what type of leader, I am. I've asked that question before. And because I often reflect on how to get better as far as leadership, my leadership, and just also how to be better for those I work with, work for. And I think I'm at my best I would say the same thing, that I'm a collaborator. Like I think I'm at my peak when I'm able to collaborate and being in a process that involves those I work with. I get inspired, I get energized, and I feel like I do the same for others. When you share energy, you share
Mm-hmm.
frequency, you share ideas. I think about that space, being a space where you're creating, and whether you're writing up ideas or initiatives, and you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking of ways to do things, and there's this passing of ideas, and you feel it in the room, and people are engaged, and it's not a really so formal as the communication process is not formal,
Hmm.
so so formal, but it allows for people to really share ideas in a
Hmm.
rhythmic way, in a
Hmm.
rhythmic way. I think it's like it becomes almost like you know a musical when you're able to like have that rhythm and have that expressive thought process and be able to go back and forth with your coworkers. I think it becomes beautiful to me.
I was gonna say that's very beautiful the way that you see it. I've never felt it or seen it that way, and I
Oh
think the way
man.
that you just described it, I'm like, damn, how come I've never experienced that
Yo,
shit? What the fuck? I'm not a good a leader. Like, I need to be like you. What the
oh
fuck?
man.
That's what's up though.
Yeah.
Like that the way that you were even just talking about it, the passion. I think I can see that being part of like what I'm. I'm assuming I've never had to work for you, but I'm assuming you're a good leader. No one I've ever talked to has said otherwise. But it sounds like the way that you're talking about how you converse or whatever, how you interact with folks to come up with new ideas or to develop better ways of doing things. Uh,
I
that's
get
a
hype, man.
I
I
can
don't
tell,
I don't
man.
know. I just hype. I like when people get inspired and they like, listen, we did. Yeah, I just yes, you don't
That's
know.
what's up. So yeah, I think I was gonna ask you what kind of leader you are, but I think you told
yeah,
me one, right? Like, do you want that? That's what
yeah.
would you say?
People, yeah,
Go ahead.
just like people at their best. Like you could feel when people are inspired. Like you feeling inspired, and I'm like, I don't know. It's just, you feel it, and it lifts me, and I want them to know that I want, and I'm thankful when they get into that space because it's very encouraging, and I mean I feel like we just share energy, and when you
Yeah.
see somebody tapping into something, you gotta lift. You gotta uplift that because they're in their moment right now. So like, yeah, and being encouraged, man. I think of sports like that, and I think I mentioned this last week when people are in their zone,
Yeah.
we can easily make a comment to shift them out of that zone. But I'm intentional about making comments that keeps them in the zone
Mm-hmm.
and make them feel and like, listen, stay in that moment, stay in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. So it's like it's important.
That's so interesting. Because there's so first off, I think there's a bunch of buzzwords that exist. I'm going to use one of them. One of them being flow state. Everyone loves talking
Ooh,
about flow state these days.
yeah, the
So
flow.
what you're talking about, there's an element of flow state. I'm not into like jumping into whole theories or buzzwords or whatever ideas people are talking about, but I will say like the elements of that, like being in the zone that you're talking about,
Yeah.
I get you.
Like
And
we should say zone now instead of saying flow state, right?
zone in
Zone in the zone.
the
But
zone,
yeah, I've heard flow state, and I get it, and that's what I'm saying is like when
yeah.
somebody's in that flow, it's seamless, and it's just like
But what
it's
you're
just
saying is like you love when you're in that zone with folks together. Like when you
ooh,
see it's and when you make the sports analogy, it's like when you see a whole team that's just
yeah,
killing it
in the
together, right?
flow
Like they're
state, yeah,
just yeah.
yeah,
Um and when they're in it together, it's a beautiful thing to see. So when that is translated into the exchange of ideas world
mm,
where we like sit and it's no longer our bodies that are doing like in sports it's our bodies that are connecting with other people's bodies, but here you're talking more of like a more like a an idea spiritual like a mental
yeah,
flow that
flow.
meets, which is that sounds like a beautiful thing.
We're all in the same frequency, and
Yeah.
we're sharing this frequency, and if we recognize that we're sharing that same frequency, and all right, oh wow, we're here. All right, let's stay here and let's make magic in this place we're in. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, none of you people here, you're not going to shift us out of here, out of this space by saying, being the person who's pessimistic or saying that, this can't, you know how that person is
Yeah,
like, oh, this could
yeah,
never happen. No, we're going to
yeah,
be optimistic because we're in the zone right now. Do not,
yeah.
don't be that person because you're going to get kicked out of this circle right now. That's how I
It's
feel
funny,
sometimes. Yeah.
bro. I feel that, bro. It's funny you say that because that's like something that I experience um, with a few people in my life. But there's just people in my life that only think like about the things that will the obstacles, right? They all they
Yes.
think about is the obstacles, and I'm like, bro, like
Yeah.
we're coming up with good shit right
Shit.
now. Stop telling me that we can't do something.
Yeah,
Stop.
we are
Right?
hot right now. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
Like, really?
I just want to manage expectations. That's what I'm
Yeah,
like.
exactly. Exactly. I think
Shut up.
I think there's moments for that. I was like, but
Yeah.
when you're tapped in and
Yeah.
like that's not the moment for that.
Yeah.
We could
Yeah.
talk once we out of that zone, we could talk. But right now we're in a creative space. We're moving with ideas, we're inspired. Don't come and kill the vibes. You know
Bitch,
what you
don't kill
killing the
my
vibe.
vibe.
Yeah.
Bitch, don't kill my vibe.
Don't kill the vibe. Yeah. Because it could be very hard to tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It
not
is.
that's not easy. Everybody got to be in a, I could be in a good move. I woke up this morning great. That person woke up this morning great. We all woke up this morning great, and we're able to tap in. But
Wait, hold on. Did
sometimes,
they follow? Did they follow Derby's morning routine
oh
ideas
yeah,
from the first episode?
exactly. But if one of us didn't start the day right or something, when we may not be able to get into that place. So that's where magic happens when we're able. I really, and I've been there. I've been there. Uh, you know, many times where you can just create in those moments, and it's like
Yeah.
important to like recognize when you're in that moment.
Yeah. I'm something that I've had to learn is to that when I'm in that moment, not to take myself out of that moment, right? Like if I'm in it, I'll be like, oh, but this doesn't make sense because I'm like, because I'm always that's me. I'm always thinking about the other side, right? Like that's why
Yeah,
first off, it's like the positive thing about me. I'm really
good.
even keeled. I don't take anything personally because I understand. I
Yeah,
always understand like whatever perspective
yeah,
exists and what someone else is going through. But on the flip side, it also means like when I'm trying to write stuff or when I'm creating something, I'll like get into this path and I'll get to the point where I'm, oh, wait. But all of this doesn't make sense because this could exist. And I'm like, wait, I'm just
exactly.
fucking ruining my own ideas, man.
I think there's times for that. We're always stay in that creative space, and then after we are able to like jot everything down and plan out, and then all right, now let's go into the the things that may happen.
Yeah, I like that, man. I think that is probably the best representation of what a good leader is someone that um, a supports people getting to whatever space that they can discover their own abilities and ability to enter the flow state, and then definitely that second part, which I think the first part just makes you like a good. It's maybe like the first step to being a good leader, but the ultimate is to be able to bring a bunch of people together, support them getting into that creative space where they're
Mm-hmm.
coming up with ideas and coming up with like ways to look at things, and then maintaining that space for everyone, like protecting that space so that while they're in it they can come up with their best stuff, right? And that's
Yeah,
probably the best idea of a good leader I've
yeah.
heard.
Listen, we're in that space. Let's stay here. If I would have like that, if I'm thinking of like having a meeting of what is it they call it, like a think tank, and
Mm-hmm.
we're in this space and everybody's just going in there writing. We have the board up, the whiteboard, and somebody's there with a marker, just like writing down all these ideas. I think there is. I would like appoint somebody who's like the person whose job is to maintain this atmosphere. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
anybody's trying to shift us out of here, you're the guy that just says nope. you
Yep.
know, your job is to maintain this atmosphere.
So when I did men's groups in Chicago, one of the things, because like obviously people were opening up like some deep shit, right? Like we had circles, we did those pies checking I told you about.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, for those who don't know, it's uh, PI stands for physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And then you check in about all four of those points about yourself. So we would talk about what's going on with us physically, what's going on with us intellectually, what's going on with us emotionally, what's going on with us spiritually. And then we would just have this, what we called the container. So like we sit in circle and then we open up and we talk about just shit. Like we just share whatever we're there to share. And as the facilitator, I would that was my role, right? Like maintaining the container is what we
Yeah,
called it. So like protecting that container and everything that goes into the container stays in the container. Um, and only the people who are part of the container get to know about what goes on in the container, but that what you're talking about is like maintaining that space, keeping that space free from like I don't want to say negativity or harm, but like keeping it contained, just making sure that everyone's a part of it and every like nothing's coming to harm that container.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. I think that's important, just to like um to maintain. And I was recently with a group of men, and it's a healing space. Their organization called Men at Work Healing. So I want to definitely give a shout out to them because they really inspired me. So group of men, and of course there's facilitators, sharing space and expressing themselves. You know, and I think there's not a lot of spaces for men to like be vulnerable and share their thoughts and how they're dealing with whatever challenges, and also just to be real. I think a lot of times we're like we're told to be a certain way, and of course we're the strength of our families, and the ones that have to keep things together, but at times like we're not able to just like let loose and express what we're going through. So that man, so being in with those men and being able to have a conversation, it showed me how much uh how big of a need there is for a space for men to heal and to talk about their challenges. So I hope that there's more spaces like that for men and young men, in this world.
Yes, spaces for men to be vulnerable. There
Yeah.
aren't many. There's almost none for boys, right? Like
Oh yeah.
young men. Like there's men's groups
Yeah.
which are growing. Also, not to be confused with like men's rights groups. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, there's space for men, and there's very few for boys or young men, and I think that sets. I mean, there need to be more spaces for everyone to be
Yeah.
vulnerable, but particularly when it comes to men of color,
Hmm.
uh, it's it's a problem, right? Like that's what the work that I was doing in Chicago was creating groups. It was called Becoming a Man, the
Mm.
program, which is a great program. Shout out to them; they're wonderful. Questionable about the organization that they are under, but the work being done is important. And to your point, it's so necessary, right? Like when men are not given the opportunity or the the space to be vulnerable, it causes a lot of damage, right? Like
Yeah.
That's what I would say most damage that exists in the world is because of men's inability or lack of space to be vulnerable.
And to be real about their challenges, their
Yeah.
and the things they're going through emotionally. And yeah, it's a big challenge. And it's like, and for men who are listening, it's you have to be intentional about finding these places because it's important for yourself, your healing, and also for you to be better for your family and for your loved ones. It's to find spaces for you to be able to express yourself. I mean, I think a lot of times too, and I've been having this conversation with people. Um, there's this conversations where we're encouraging therapy, which I think therapy is good. But at the same time, I think some people aren't really. I don't know. They're saying that therapy may not work for them, and are there alternative things they can do if therapy hasn't been working? Or is it just about finding the right therapist? And I've been in places, where I have gone to therapy and myself. But of course, maybe the therapist initially didn't work, but then I found someone um, that did work for me. So in that space, how do you think that there's if someone is not able to find a therapist, is this alternative things they can do? Is like self help a thing they can do? Is there other things um, that may help them move through challenges?
I think a few things here. First, I'll say yes. There's definitely other things people can do than therapy, and it's wild that people like when someone's struggling, they just say, "Oh, why don't you just go to therapy?" It's like,
Yes,
all right, man. That's like, come on. There's never one way to solve a problem, right?
I agree with that.
So first, there's definitely always other things one can do that is not therapy. I also don't think therapy, or at least this idea of one person who went to school and studied psychology or whatever therapy that we consider therapy is for everyone, right? Like
Hmm.
I definitely don't believe that. Um, is there other things that people can do? Back to that, definitely. And I'll, when I one thing off the top is what we're talking about, right? Like being part of a group. Groups are settings where people can feel more related to other folks rather
Hmm.
than seeing a one-on-one therapist can feel like oh, I got to go talk to this person who thinks they have all the answers to my life that they've never lived, right? There's
Hmm.
plenty of that. If I think about all the veterans that I have worked with, I know people with real PTSD. I worked with this dude at Axon who was a Marine, and he, I mean, I'm not going to say who he is or what he did because then people might know who I'm talking about. But some people that I know and some people that I've worked directly with being in the Navy and being overseas and doing shit come back with real ass PTSD and real ass experiences that people who study shit in a book or um, and get their degrees don't actually know anything about. They just know
Hmm.
what the theories tell them.
Theories behind it.
So feeling connected to others, so how going to like veteran groups and things like that is a much better setting for them where they feel like they're relating to folks who have gone through what they've gone through,
Hmm.
and they can find solidarity. So I would say if therapy is not your thing, which it's probably not most people's thing, people are just pressured into doing it. Uh, I would say trying groups. Groups are great.
Hmm.
Uh, just finding groups. There's groups for everything, man. I was online looking for um, a friend of mine has a partner that has a mood disorder, and they just wanted to join a group with people with that are partners
Mm.
of someone with a mood disorder. And there was a group for that, right? That shit's wild. So there's always a group. And then another thing for us, like trying to better ourselves, is not just relying on therapy or on groups, but actually discovering new things that make us feel at ease.
That
Because like,
resonates. Yeah,
yeah, right.
that
I think
resonates with you.
that's so important, is to find what we like in the world, not just be
Exactly.
told by someone else like,
That this
hey,
is the answer.
yeah, right? Like uh yeah, go explore the world,
Right,
right?
exactly.
That's the best thing that we can do to try to find new answers.
Yeah, I mean, I think a better message is to find to search for your healing. I
Hmm.
think if you're telling people on how to heal and this is the only route, I think it because now if it doesn't work, that person's like, okay, then what I do? I think there's multiple ways, and it's based on who you are and based on your journey, and it
Hmm.
may work. Whatever route may work for you, whether it's therapy, whether it's having group discussions and being able to connect with people that way. However it is, just like move towards healing, move towards being the best version of yourself. And if I think, and I would say that if you seek, you will find it. But I think it's just being more about, listen, I
Hmm.
want deciding on you wanting to heal. I think is the key. Is first is that
Hmm.
decision, and then everything will kind of like happen for you. But I think that decision to heal is important.
So we just watched. This is a spoiler alert. So for anyone, be mind or be warned. We just watched the last episode of Ted Lasso of the season, and one of the things is like one of the characters is trying to change who they are and become a better person, and he thinks he's failing, and another character just says, uh, "You're not failing as long as you keep asking for help and keep accepting help. Then you're always moving towards being better."
That's
And uh, that I was like, that's it, man. That's the goal, right? Like you can't be perfect, and even if you wanted to be or made it to being perfect, that's a very boring life, or it's a very like stressful life trying to keep up perfection.
hmm
But the only thing we can do to get better is to just keep going out into the world and asking the world to give us stuff, like working at it and asking our friends, asking
hmm
our what do people pray to, like their ancestors, asking the ancestors, asking God if that's what you believe in, right?
yeah.
Like asking the spiritual realm, the emotional realm, whatever, just asking and searching for it, and then accepting when stuff happens, because stuff is always happening, right? Like that goes back to like what we were talking about before when it comes to perception. Like things are happening, whether you accept it or not is different, because you don't see it, or you see it as a slight or harmful. But like when we accept the help and we ask for help, then we keep getting better at doing whatever this thing is that we do with our meat suits.
Yeah. And also like help may come, but it may not. I think people maybe reject help because it may not look like what they expect.
Yeah,
And
that's what I meant by the perception thing,
yeah,
right?
but yeah,
Like,
what the perception, yeah. And
yeah.
it's like again, you got all this help. It's like I'm not getting help, and it's like in your face. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to have that this awareness of when the help comes,
Yeah.
and not like reject it or find ways to like you know dodge it.
Yeah.
Just the resources and everything you need will be provided, but you have to have the awareness to receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta practice awareness. So
Yeah.
maybe we should talk about that next time. Being aware.
Awareness. Oh, being aware. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a whole topic in itself, man. Like just awareness
Yeah.
in general.
I mean, that's a whole study, right? Like that's a whole, you could get a PhD in just awareness. So,
Awareness.
yeah, I'd love we should definitely table that one. Talk about that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
So
bro.
yeah, we got 40 minutes in. I think I think we, you know, think this was a good talk.
Yeah.
We
What did
hit
we
we hit
talk
some
about? We
good.
talked about leadership,
Oh,
sportsmanship or teamsmanship,
teammanship.
uh, vulnerability.
And we talked about which I like is we talked about um recognizing when we're vibe when whether we're
Yeah.
in work in a work environment, workspace, and we're all vibing in that good space and
Yeah.
keeping that going.
Yeah, that's important. Those are the spaces that I won't leave the job after 2 years.
Yeah,
If it's like that
exactly.
the whole time,
Oh
I'd stay,
man,
right? If it was like that, I'd
exactly,
stay.
exactly.
Y'all ain't providing the right work environment. No, I'm
I
kidding.
know. Just before that, before I've been realizing that people in business, and I have a friend that does real estate. She works for a real estate company, um, and the real estate company was were doing like um, I don't know. It was they were having conversations in the morning where they talked about how each other feeling. So they was doing pies. So that
Mm-hmm.
what's pies again?
Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual.
Yeah, they had a discussion, and I'm listening. I'm like, wow, that's interesting that this business recognized that if we're able to be physically, intelligently, or and emotionally in a good space, that produces productivity
Mm-hmm.
for their business.
Yeah.
So when I saw that the group was having a conversation like that, I thought it was like I saw I thought it was a wow thing to me. So I'm not sure if that's like a thing that companies are doing. I'm not. Are you seeing that?
I don't work with a lot of companies,
So yeah,
so no.
but it's just something to think about. You know,
It it is if they are, they're changing their ways.
exactly.
A friend of mine just sent me a survey because he's doing a study. He's doing his master's or a PhD in Germany, but he's doing a study on millennials and how they have like this willingness to just leave a job if it's not like
Hmm.
fulfilling them or at least speaking to their mental
Yeah.
emotional being.
Yes.
So like if they are, they're finally getting the picture, right?
Yes. A
Like
picture. Yeah, I think that's
this
a
is what
big
people want. So
People want more of
that'd be
that.
great.
So
That'd be great
yeah,
if businesses decided to be more mindful of the fact that there's a bunch of human beings working
being
for them.
exactly. Yeah, and sometimes they're not. To be honest, yeah,
Most of the time. No, like
yeah,
mostly. Most of history and most of right now and most of the companies have not cared that there are
yeah,
human beings working in these positions.
exactly, exactly. Which is unfortunate. So hopefully there is like more awareness around that. I think that's the word of the day: awareness. Hopefully businesses and society is more aware about this this topic and that providing emotional support for their staff or giving the space at least. We're not saying, but understanding that people are human and they may need that space that could ultimately lead to just better work environment
Yeah.
and productivity in general.
4 day work weeks. That's what it better lead to. It better lead to some fucking 3 day weekends. I'm tired of working 5 days a week for other
Yeah,
motherfuckers. This shit is wild. We get 2 days? Nah.
and
Nah, son. Nah, son. Nah.
all right,
This
bro.
shit's for the birds. All right. 40-hour work weeks is antiquated. All right, man.
um,